The Acolyte is one of the most talked about shows on the internet right now, and not for the right reasons. The Acolyte is the latest Disney Star Wars show. They've made a lot of them. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. In my opinion, The Acolyte, it's nowhere near as good as, Andor. That show is too good for Star Wars. It kind of makes everything else look terrible, if we're being honest. The Acolyte is also nowhere near as bad as something like The Book of Boba Fett or Obi-Wan, in my opinion. Like, I think it's about on par with, like, the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. Bear in mind that I think that The Mandalorian is kind of overrated. So what that should tell you is that The Acolyte is just okay. But anyways, I think that there are a lot of valid criticisms that you could levy at The Acolyte, right? If you want to say that the show looks kind of cheap sometimes, I would argue that it does, Apparently they don't use the volume technology on this show, but sometimes it still just kind of feels like it. The Acolyte is a prequel set way before even the prequel trilogy, but when you just kind of look at the world, it does just kind of feel like the prequel era of Star Wars. It doesn't really feel unique. I like most of the characters, I like Yord and Sol and May and Osha and whatnot, but, I do think that they could have done a better job of making their relationships feel more real and meaningful. Like, there are plenty of criticisms that you could levy at the show, criticisms that I would even disagree with, that I would still look at and go, hey, that's valid. But the problem with The Acolyte, and to be fair, a lot of media these days, is that so much of the criticism is just mind-numbingly stupid and politically driven. So I saw this tweet the other day. It's from an account called End Wokeness. Gee, I wonder where this is going. The tweet says, Star Wars fans, we just want good plots and intense fighting scenes. Disney, well, okay, here's a diverse and queer girl boss getting a lightsaber haircut. First of all, this is taken from episode 5 of The Acolyte. Literally the entire episode was fight scenes. Okay, I don't know what to tell you on that front. Then we get to the other parts of it. So, here's a diverse person. Why is that bad? What does her being, like, black have to do with anything? Then they say that she's queer. What? This character isn't even queer. Unless I missed the scene or the line of dialogue, her sexuality is not a thing that they've addressed in the show. Apparently, she's also a girl boss? Really? Is May a girl boss? The character that's constantly getting her ass kicked by other characters in the show? This is a girl boss? The character who's kind of like portrayed as a psychopath? This is a girl boss? And then I guess her cutting off her hair with the lightsaber is bad. I mean, I don't know. I guess some people think this is kind of cringy. I don't know. I honestly didn't think much of it. It's like, yeah, I've seen characters cut their hair off with their swords in the past. This tweet just doesn't have any, like, interesting criticism or anything to work with. It is literally just the guy getting mad at a black person being in a show, and he's imagining that she's queer, and he's making the assertion that she's a girl boss when this character is just not that. So that was cringe. Let's move on to another tweet here. This is from somebody by the name of Lucas Star Wars Girl. If you read her bio, it says, Lucas Star Wars, not bad Disney fan fiction, opinionated and fearless. Uh-oh, watch out, we might have a girl boss on our hands here. Proud to be a die-hard original and prequel trilogy Star Wars fan, I expose Disney. So here we have a person that is more of a fan of, like, original pre-Disney Star Wars, and that's fine. If you just have a preference for those movies, that's perfectly reasonable. Anyways, her tweet reads, R.I.P. Star Wars. It's a guy who presumably has their, like, child on its deathbed. They superimposed, like, the triggered SJW lady. We're really still using this meme? Oh my god! The dialogue bubble is saying, and then lesbian witches are gonna be impregnated by the Force. And then the dad hears that and he unplugs the life support because this is such an offensive thing, I guess, that he doesn't want their child to be alive. So the lesbian witches are in reference to the 3rd episode of The Acolyte. And don't get me wrong, like, it's definitely implied that at the very least these 2 witches are in like a relationship with one another. But then it's also kind of muddled because, okay, I'm going to explain this and it's going to be like weird witch shit, so just buckle up. But the 2 twins that are the main characters of the show were actually created by the Force, and the leader of the coven, which is this lady, she used the Force to create them, and the Darth Maul lady actually like birthed them. And so there's a scene where they're like talking about their differences in opinion as to how the girls should be raised. And don't get me wrong, it's definitely implied that they're in a lesbianic relationship. All I'm saying here is that it's never explicitly stated, and it's never explicitly said that all of the witches are lesbians. Now, are they probably all experimenting? What the hell else are you going to do on a shitty village in the Star Wars universe? I don't think they have video games. But the thing is that I always had it understood that according to a lot of these people, it's not that we don't want like diverse casts or like gay people in media. We just don't want it shoved down our throat, and we don't want it beat over our heads. The Acolyte is simply not an example of like woke politics being like heavily inserted into the story and being beaten over your heads. The diversity of the cast is never made an explicit part of the plot. The sexual orientation of any of these characters are never made an explicit part of the plot. So again, you can think that the show is good or bad. All I'm saying is that it's just not true that like woke social politics are like a heavy part of this show, because they're just not. Like, I remember 3 months ago, I watched a video by The Critical Drinker when he was just talking about the trailer for The Acolyte, right? We didn't have the show yet. He was just talking about the trailer. And this guy, there's like a frame where you see a bunch of Jedi younglings, and he was like making a note of like the gender and the races of all the characters. Like, this motherfucker is like pulling out a notepad being like, it's a female, alien, female, the black kid. Oh, we have a black kid here, don't we? A female. Like, what are we talking about anymore? By the way, I'm going to emphasize this again. Am I saying that there are not valid criticisms of The Acolyte? No, obviously there are. But in my opinion, the worst thing that people do is they try to villainize the people that are involved with the show. So the account that we were talking about earlier, End to Wokeness, they put out this tweet, which is, in my opinion, really disgusting. Like, actually disgusting, right? Like, a lot of what we were talking about before, you could kind of look at it as memes and, oh, look, anti-cringe, anti-wokeness. This is like an active effort to portray the lead actress of The Acolyte, Amanda Steinberg, as like an anti-white racist, and to just stoke the flames of like modern day like political fighting or whatever. So the tweet starts, it's a quote of the video that says, "White people crying was the goal. Amanda Steinberg, lead actress for the new Star Wars series, The Acolyte." And in the clip, she does indeed say that white people crying was the goal.
When people watch The Hate You Give, what do you want them to walk away with? Because I know everyone has a slightly different feeling.
Well, I mean, white people crying actually was the goal. It was the goal.
And even me, like, I hear something like that and I immediately roll my eyes, because I do personally think it's annoying that anti-white racism is just kind of okay nowadays. Like, you can just be racist to white people and, oh, who cares? But the first thing to note is that even if this was like a cringe thing that she said, this was said like 5 years ago. Amanda Steinberg was like 19 years old. Are we really gonna like hold her feet to the fire for something she said that long ago? But this also speaks to like how people will like actively try and demonize and scour your history if you're involved with like a Disney Star Wars project. And the worst part is that the clip is taken out of context. The movie that they're talking about is The Hate U Give. And the reason why she's saying that the goal was to get white people to cry is because the goal of the movie is to get white people to empathize with the impacts of police brutality.
But it's supposed to be a tool of empathy. So oftentimes we see these events portrayed on the news and in media, but usually they're misconstrued, or they're at least postulated so that they don't fully humanize the people of color who are killed and affected by these events. And so that's what this is supposed to be a tool to do. It's supposed to ground it in a personal narrative, and hopefully people will have a sense of empathy because of that. And so far, it's been really successful. We have a lot of white people crying after, which is great. I've never seen so many white people crying before. Like, it's amazing.
Now, listen, you can have an opinion on whether or not you think that police brutality is as big of a problem as, you know, a lot of people on the left believe it is. And, you know, I'm not here to get into that conversation. But what is absolutely true is that this isn't Amanda Steinberg trying to, like, antagonize white people. And it's really disgusting for this End Wokeness account to, like, purposely take this clip out of context and try to stoke those racial flames even more than they already are. The Acolyte. This is a show that is not allowed to just be bad. We need to inject the fact that it's diverse. We need to inject the fact that it has, you know, a female lead. Those things are not important elements to the show. When we talk about The Marvels, that's another movie that is female-led, but the fact that they're women is, like, never an important part of the story. The first Captain Marvel, that movie absolutely is woke. That movie absolutely is, like, ham-fistedly, you know, a movie about feminism and whatever. The Marvels is just not that. But when we talk about that, a lot of the criticisms are all about the fact that it's a female-led girl boss movie. Like, these movies are not allowed to just be bad. Morbius is just a bad movie. At no point in the history of film criticism did anybody say, like, oh, well, straight white male lead Jared Leto delivered a bad performance. Strong male character Morbius morbed all over the bad guys. Like, at no point does anybody ever talk about Morbius that way. But the fact that The Acolyte is a diverse show, or the fact that The Marvels is female-led, that's super important to the criticism of those movies. Now, to be fair, the way that Amanda Steinberg responded to the criticism, I believe the proper term for it is cringe. She made this little rap video. Now, I don't know how much of this I can show because apparently she's been, like, taking people down when people try to, like, put it in YouTube videos. So we'll see. But, you know, she raps about how they took her out of context interview with Trevor Noah and tried to, like, twist it into making it about hate instead of empathy and whatnot. And here's the thing. I made these same points in this video. Making those points in a cringe-ass rap video is only going to provide more fuel for people to hate on you with. I'm just saying, okay? Even with all that being said, near the end of the video, she tries to, like, conflate what's currently going on with modern social politics to 400 years of oppression. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that your ancestors went through that I don't think is completely comparable to what you're going through there, Amanda. So I don't know if you want to conflate all of that into one thing, but I don't know. That's just some constructive criticism over here. But I don't know. Trying to do, like, goofy dances and dabbing on the haters, I don't know if that's going to do what you want it to do. Here's the truth of the matter. The only thing that you can possibly do is make a better show. As long as you make something good, you can make it as woke as you want. X-Men 97, for example. It's fucking incredible. Fucking crickets about the wokeness. The show is very much woke, by the way. Like, they literally recreate January 6th. The thing about Disney Star Wars is that as long as you make stuff on the level of Andor, these people will shut up. But yeah, I guess to wrap things up here, I do think it's unfortunate that things can no longer just be bad and that all of entertainment has to be some fucking staging ground for people to inject their politics into everything, even when the movie or TV show doesn't even really do it itself. So that is annoying, but it also just kind of is what it is. So let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.